good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I know this show is seen at so many different times. This is Senior Issues, etc. I'm your host, Vita Burden. Sit back, relax, go get your coffee, go get your pop, whatever, because we've got really good information for you today. We're right in the voting season, and who I have with me is, I've known her for quite a while. Her name is Willard Helander, and she is the clerk of Lake County. I know this show is seen even outside the Lake County area. Now, I'll tell you something. You know, you and I, we've become good friends because we've been on, the show's been going for so many years, and we've kind of like grown old together. And, you know, I'm a woman of passion. Well, I know this Willard Helander, she's a woman of passion, and she isn't the type of person that would brag about herself. So, you know what? I have the right, and this is the opportunity I could take to brag on her, because I know when she came into office, what she's done single-handedly, and she's dragged the whole of Lake County, yelling and screaming and biting, right into the 21st century. And that's hitting a lot of bumps along the road, because when you go in that you're going to bring something up to date, there's a lot of work, and it's a lot more problems, and it's a lot more bumps than there is applause. But unless somebody has that in their heart, that this is how much they love their country and this is how much they love their community, they can't do such a job. And I know she recently got married, and she has a couple of kids that have kids, but she just became a recent grandma again, and we're going to have her tell us all about it. Willard, it's so nice to have you back on the show. God bless you.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be with you. And yes, I am proud to be a grandmother for the 4th time. I have a daughter in Mississippi on the coast, and she had a little boy named Jack, and he has a big sister named Lily. So
okay, so right in that camera for Jack and Lily, but we have to say it for the others too. We don't want to offend anybody.
Right.
Right?
And I have Stella and William in Houston, Texas. So
that's
big
four.
Kisses.
4.
Oh, 1, 2, 3.
Another one. 4. Okay, so now you are the clerk of Lake County, and I know a lot of our viewers who have been such faithful viewers of the show have heard you, but we have expanded into such a large audience now. We have so many other communities that have joined with us that we have such gratitude for, that they would like to know a little bit about you.
Sure.
You know?
Well, my background is I was elected in 1994. That was 20 years ago.
But we want to know personally a little bit, where were you born?
I grew up in Brownsville, Tennessee, a great little town near Memphis. I have an undergraduate degree in speech therapy from the University of Mississippi, and then I went to law school at the University of Tennessee, and met my first husband in England in 1976 on a summer law program from William and Mary, and married and moved to Evanston, then eventually to Deerfield, Illinois in Lake County, and then to Libertyville. And as you mentioned, I have 3 grown children, and I am newly married for the 2nd time to a lovely man who is from Wheaton, actually Massachusetts originally.
That's a double smacker right there, a double smacker.
He's a very patient guy.
Yeah.
And Glenn and I are really excited about our new chapter in life.
I want to ask you, were you pulled to politics? Were you pulled, or was that accidental?
Actually, a little of both. I had a great living civics lesson growing up because my mother was very involved. She moved to this small town in 1949 when she married my dad, and she went in and asked to vote for Eisenhower, and they said, "Oh, honey, we don't print those ballots. We've never had a call for them." Because it was all Democrat in that area. So my mother was very polite. She didn't say, "You're violating the law." She said, "Well, I'll go start the party." So she made the community available to have options. So growing up, people used to stop me if my mom sent me in the grocery store to get a loaf of bread. they would say, your mom's the best thing that ever happened. We have choices now. So I did grow up knowing you can make a difference. So you had a
really solid, that's interesting. I think probably a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you shared that.
And the other thing, both my parents always instilled in me that you have an obligation to be involved in your community, because if you're not part of the solution, you are the problem. So I was always not one to sit on my hands, but to raise my hand and get involved.
That's interesting because I had the same kind of upbringing. My father said, you know, when you're living here, what you have to do is you have to do your share and you have to do more than. And I come out of a family of 5 children, you know, and he instilled the work ethic and that we had to share in some sort of community project, even as a child. And I think that inbred in you, then you want to do that. That's what the passion comes out of.
Absolutely. And that greatest generation, I think, taught a lot of folks that. We're grateful for that.
So what we'd like to know is, let's start here. First of all, what is the Clerk of Lake County? What does that consist of?
Well, it's a busy job.
Right.
In the county clerk's office, you're responsible for all voter registration for the county, just as my counterpart in Cook County and in McHenry. You're responsible for running elections, and that's everything from recruiting election judges and training them, to finding polling places, to meeting ADA requirements, to selecting a voting equipment that you use, setting up the election, printing the ballots, tabulating them. And then we're also responsible for tax extension. The county clerk's office is where every unit of government files their budget and their levy ordinance to fund that budget. So when we get the values of real estate from the boards of review, from all the township assessors, we actually calculate the tax bills that we send to the treasurer, who does the billing and collection. And then finally, the county clerk is the clerk of the 21-member county board and the official record keeper, and we are the archive for vital records, birth, marriage, death, and we issue marriage licenses and do a lot of small things the legislature assigns to us, like ethics filings and notary forms.
That is more than a plateful. And to handle something like that, you have to be very organized.
It's a very detailed job that requires, I think, a good understanding of the law, because every day we're very ministerial. We don't have latitude to decide what to do. We may decide on the technical application to deploy a system, but our job is regulated either by statute or by court interpretation. So having a law degree has been very helpful.
And being a good administrator.
Yeah, I'm a detailed kind of person.
Right. Now, let's get into it. I think that you were going to tell us about some changes in the law.
Yes, Illinois has had some of the most dramatic changes in election law over the last 10 years. I think in the last 100 years, it's been a rapid pace. We made a lot of changes when I came in. We adopted optical scan voting system. We asked the county to have a website so that people could have transparency and easy access to information. We started providing image signatures so that when you vote, you didn't have to take the original voter registration record out. So lots of technology was put into place to make it easier for voters and to be more cost effective with labor costs.
And that's a big leaping into technology, because I was a part of this now with this show, so I know that.
And it really helps cut cost as the county grows, and if you did things the old-fashioned way, you just couldn't afford to do it that way anymore. But this year, we have several new laws. You can now request to register to vote on the internet. You do not have to supply your signature, which is quite interesting because your only identification in our state is your signature. So we can't ask for ID unless your signature doesn't match. But the Secretary of State will find the signature from their records and add it to.
I see.
But they don't look at the address, which troubles me a little bit, because if you go online and put in your name, your date of birth, your address, and your driver's license number, when they send, the State Board of Elections sends that information to the Secretary of State, they don't give them the address.
Now, is this the first year this is going in?
It started in July.
So they'll probably have to work out the bumps.
Yeah, we've already gotten records for a woman in Lake County, Indiana. She should not have registered using the Illinois system. And of course, it really makes it easy for a campaign to go door to door and use a portable device to say, do you like what we stand for? They could register you at the door by putting in your information and your driver's license number. But the part that worries me a little bit is they could also put you at an address to put you in a separate district for a state rep or state senator
and
that
you
needed
could be
more
in
votes.
several districts.
Yeah, well, you can't be in several, but they could try to put you where you don't live. So I'm a little concerned how that's going to work out. Another new law is you've always had to sign a separate application to get a ballot by mail. And that's a real growing trend to vote by mail. Several years ago, they took away the requirement that you had to be sick, out of town, disabled, or a student. And now it's open to anyone, and we've seen our vote by mail this year is huge. We believe 50% of the people voting in the election will either vote by mail or early. It's going to be a record.
I'm one.
Before election day.
My vote is already in. It's
there
in
you
the
go.
mail. It's already there.
We mailed over 10,000 ballots on Thursday, the first day to mail them. So that was a record for us. We've gotten several thousand in each day since then. But when you request your ballot, you can now go on the internet and make that request, and you don't have to sign anything. You do sign the envelope when you get the ballot and vote it. The part I want to warn your viewers about, if you register on the internet or request a ballot to vote by mail on the internet, the reason they pass these laws is to get your web information. They want to know your email address. And then because many people are using cell phones now, and the campaigns and the political people can't reach you, and they want to be able to, if they can't call you, to email you. So beware if you use the internet to request a ballot without printing the piece of paper like you did, or if you register online, then someone may fill your email box with information you didn't expect.
Oh, well, I hate to stop you right here, but now we're going to go into Vita's Pearls of Wisdom. And one thing I'm going to go after, you know, I've always laid it on the line for you. And I want to tell you a few statistics that I have. The statistics that I have, which it's not 100%, but as a block of voters, we as seniors, and this is debatable whether it's 55, 60, 62, 65, but it doesn't matter. I consider like anyone over 50, like you're in the senior blockage. Okay, like what the last thing that I read about was in the 80% were registered to vote, and in the high 70s who were actually getting out to vote. Now, I tell you, in the next block is the baby boomers. In the baby boomers block, what it is 78% of baby boomers are registered to vote, and 68% get out to vote. There's a 10% differential. As with seniors, there's only maybe a 4 or 5% differential, and we're the highest block. And the millennials, they haven't really come into it because they're off on hearing the headphones and their phones and all the rest. They haven't really cemented themselves into it. So anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is we are in the lead for the largest block of voters, okay? Now, as voters, what we are is we can get out and vote. And when I get back to Willard, I'm going to have her give you a telephone number. If any of you like get sick at the last minute, you can't get out to vote, that you'll be able to call a number. Because there's so many ways. Myself, I got my ballot in the mail, and it's already out there. And I think that's the way to go. Now, I know this applies in Lake County. I don't know all the restrictions in the other counties as far as Willard probably would knows that better than me. But there has to be a way for you to vote. And I don't care what your condition is. I don't care how you vote. The most important thing is this is a right that we have worked hard to achieve, that we have to maintain. So being that we are at the lead, let's show them this election that we're even further in the lead, that we can do it. and we can do it together. And does a single vote count? Yeah, a single vote counts, because if it's a single vote here and a single vote there and a single vote there, that is a block of votes when they get together. So every single vote counts, and that's what our country is based on. It's we the people. So unless we voice our rights and unless we achieve what we're supposed to do, then it's just like taking democracy down a peg. And at this time, with everything that's going on in the world, it's time to lift it up, because we're living in the greatest nation in the world, and we have to keep it that way. And I'm going to get back to Willard now and see if she can give you a telephone number. Willard, do you have a telephone number that our audience can call?
If you would like to vote by mail, which we highly recommend, because you never know, we could have a snowstorm in early November, you could get sick, you could have a family emergency. That number is 847-377 2406.
2406. You got that? Okay, and they can call that number if they can't get out too, right?
Yes, and that number, when you call, you just say, I'd like to have a ballot by mail. They will mail you the application. You have to sign that and return it, and then we mail the ballot. The last day that we can mail a ballot is October, the Thursday before the election.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that if you're interested in voting by mail, that you do that now. Don't procrastinate. Take care of your business. So you have a good 2 to 3 weeks to get that form, sign it, turn it back in, and we mail the ballot. We can accept any ballot and count it as long as it's postmarked by the Monday before the election. Now, I have one more thing I want to point out. That you can vote early in person. Some people don't like to rely on the mail. If you vote by mail, you can confirm that your ballot was returned to us either by telephone or our website, where you can track your ballot using lakecountyclerk.info. But if you prefer to vote in person, use early voting. That starts on October the 20th. And that's 2 full weeks where you can go in person and vote. But the hours are different. That's another new law. They've mandated some sites, which all happen to be near Waukegan, are open on Sundays and have longer hours. But the rest of the county will have early voting sites. So you can use our website or call us. We're going to mail a postcard. If your viewers live in Lake County, you will get a postcard in the mail that shows you the address of your early voting location and your election day as a reminder. And your voter card shows you your election day as well. So individuals that want to vote early can go check in. They'll be able to get their ballot, vote it, and put it in the machine, and it's all done.
Well, I have another question. Say a person gets sick at the last minute. Is there someplace they could call? Would they call a...
We can mail a ballot up until the Thursday before the election. If you get sick on Monday, you're going to have to go somewhere and vote. And judges can come to the car, 2 judges, and help a person vote from their car if they're unable to come into the polls on election
somebody
day.
will help. And say somebody can't see, somebody will help them in the voting?
Yes, you have 2 choices. If you have vision impairment, you can either have a friend or relative or 2 election judges read the ballot and mark it as you direct. We also have a machine that allows you to enlarge the font really big, and your ballot is seen on the screen, or you can reverse it out and have white letters on black background, or audio. You can hear it read.
All right, so say a person goes into the voting place, and they would have to request that?
The judge, if they could see that they had difficulty when they were signing their application, they would offer them the automark. And if they don't want the automark, they can ask that their friend or relative assist them, or 2 judges.
Now, I know that you always have a need for volunteer for judges, right? Every community always has a need for that.
We did really well for years. We actually had extra judges, but sadly, when I said I wasn't running, we lost some judges. They stopped working. So we've been recruiting. We've added about 500 new judges in the last 3 months.
I'd like to go through that because there may be people out there that they have this thought in their mind, I'd like to be a judge, but they don't really understand what that entails. So if you wouldn't mind taking the time to walk us through the steps, and I know there's a stipend that you get paid for that.
Yes,
right?
you do. And the pay varies by county. If you live in Cook County, they have a higher pay scale. They seem to always have more money than the other counties. McHenry County, I'm not sure about their price. In Lake County, a trained judge gets $140 for the day. If they take on extra duties, they can have higher pay. An election judge under Illinois law, and I know my neighboring counties would love to have people contact them as well. They are representatives of one of the two political parties.
Okay.
Sometimes we meet people that say, well, I'm a libertarian or I'm an independent. Well, it doesn't matter. When you serve as a judge, you have to declare, at least for that day, I'm going to be a Democrat or a Republican. Because the theory is that you will be equally balancing that the election is fair and that everyone is treated fairly.
And that there's equal judges on the site.
And it's actually based, the number of judges is an odd number, and the statute bases it on who carried the precinct in the last gubernatorial election. So you could have 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans, or 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. But I'll let you in on a secret. In some parts of the county, I don't have a single Republican, and in some parts of the county, I may not have enough Democrats, and I can't make a judge travel, so sometimes they may be more of one party than the other. But that's, our judges take an oath to uphold the law and be fair.
Well, maybe you could go through a work day. The judge has to get there at what?
At 5:15 in the morning.
Well,
you have to have
early.
a good alarm clock.
Okay.
They have final setup requirements that are inventorying the ballots that they have, that the machine is working properly, and they set up their paperwork.
Okay,
and
so
then,
they review the equipment?
yeah, everybody has a special job. We assign you a job so that it's not like everybody doing the same thing. And then at 6 o'clock, the polls open.
Okay.
And then we have 2 different jobs that most of the judges are doing. One table is a check-in table where they greet the voter, look them up, make sure that they got the correct form with the correct address and voter, and they ask the voter to sign it. And that's when they compare the signature, that's your identification. And then they give the voter the application to walk over to the correct precinct file to get their ballot. And the judges they confirm that it's a correct ballot, correct precinct, initial it. The voter goes to the booth and marks it. And then they get to go show it to another judge at the top corner that it's initialed as the law requires, and the voter puts it in the bin. And then you're done.
Well, then, but at the end of the day, then what happens?
Then the judges turn the key, they run the tape to see what the results were for the precinct. If they're in a building that has non-digital phone lines, they transmit results. If it's digital, they have to deliver that to another transfer site. And meanwhile, the rest of the judges separate all the ballots by precinct. They check for write-in votes, and they do what we call a statement of ballots, an audit sheet. They pack it all up, and they bring it all back to us.
Oh, so now in Lake County, can you give the number that they can call? What is the number?
That would be 847-377-2410.
Okay.
And we're getting pretty full scheduling our judges. So if you're interested in being a judge, you might not, we have 2 classes left to train. And if you're not available for either of those 2 classes, then you would probably be on our list to have you come next April to work in the April of 2015.
And those outside of Lake County would call their own
They would
clerk.
call in, if you live in Cook County, in Barrington Hills or Evanston, you would call David Orr, the Cook County clerks. They have 2 separate numbers. They have a number for elections and they have a number for vital records. So call the elections number. And then if you're in McHenry County, it's the McHenry County Clerk, and her office is Kathy Schultz, and she's in, where's the theater? Woodstock. Her office is in Woodstock.
Oh, well, that's good to know. So now, how would you sum it up as far as this voting season is concerned?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see with high voting by mail. We wonder if it's going to be higher voting overall or if people are just moving away from election day voting. We know the party that sponsored the legislation to make it easier to vote by mail is really working that as they did previously to get people to vote early. And it was kind of interesting.
Is there a benefit for either party for them to get early voting in?
Well, I will say for the first few years of voting early in person, maybe a candidate would win on election day and then the early voting would come in and the results would flip. So that old adage of the early bird gets the worm, it's still true.
Because I got it now. Because if the early voting came in and they already know how many votes are in, what they could do is get after that area to get the rest of the voters out.
That's right, because if you wait
the vote,
if you wait till election day and just focus on getting people to the polls on election day, you're probably going to lose because you will have missed 1/3 to 50% of the voters. So I think both political parties are very engaged now in finding, it's kind of like a funnel. You want to grab the broad number of people who'll vote by mail first, then the early voters, and what's left, you try to get them out election day. So it'll be interesting to see if 50% of the people do vote before November the 4th.
Now, I know you're coming close to the end of your career, and you've done a fine cleanup job in Lake County, and we're blessed to have had you. So why don't you tell your Lake County and the different areas around, what you've learned over the last years that you've been doing this, and give your.
Well, as you said, sometimes change isn't easy. People sort of criticize when something's different and want to make it a hurdle. But I think in the end, a lot of change has occurred that's been to the positive. We hear that from voters, from our election judges, and from our local election officials in the townships and the municipalities and the libraries and the schools. I have to give a lot of credit to the people that work in the county clerk's office. We have many talented people. Many of them are there now. Some have retired earlier. But it's a team of commitment. We like to say in the clerk's office that there's no major in college to run elections, and you either love it or it gets the best of you. It's a lot of work, a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, but when you believe in the process, as you were saying, it's your country, it's your democracy, it's letting the people have their say, you have a real strong passion for it. And so my hat's off to all the people in the county clerk's office and all of our election judges. We've had between 3,000 to 5,000 judges, and they're front line making the process work.
So blow them all a kiss.
All right, it's a day of kisses.
This
but
is the
team.
So, I wish the best for you.
Thank you.
It's been my pleasure to have met up with you.
It's been mine as well. Thank you so much.
It's a mutual thing.
Well, we'll have to have lunch.
Yes, we will. And may God bless your future endeavor. And when you out there come to the end of your rope, what you do is you tie a knot and you hang on real tight. You know why? Because I'm letting you in another secret. The best is yet to come. Catch the spirit. God bless you. We love you.